All right, welcome back to another installment of my behind the scenes on my Christmas album, which is available now on iTunes and Amazon. You can check it out on Pandora. This time I've got my MacBook set up, and you can see my studio kind of a little bit behind me. This is a setup I was recording on last time, but I had some issues with it. This time I've got a webcam, and you can see me, and you can also see the screen, so maybe a little bit more interesting. This time we're looking at the second track. Last time was the first track, Noel, the first Noel. This is the second track, which is Angels We've Heard. And it's another rendition in a different version that I wrote and arranged of a familiar classic. So this one's a little bit different than some of the other ones. It's a little bit more whimsical, fantasy kind of style versus just the straight up medieval style or some of the higher fantasy sounds that you get later on in the album. Um, and I want to just kind of do an overview of some of the different instruments that I did and just how it's done. This is Logic 10. And you can see these are all the instruments for this one. This is a little bit more simple track, but you can see the Lumina, like we talked about last time. Got quite a few similar instruments. This Lumina harp. Again, you can't go by these, but Lumina Celestus. Um, this time we've got though a viola, and I don't remember if we had one last time or not. An oboe again and a flute. But like I said, fairly simple. This time, though, adding the Albion Sordino strings. Consordino is a type of muted string. And so we'll go over all that. But first of all, let's listen to the track. And there it is. That is Angels We Have Heard. This is probably one of the contenders for my favorite tracks on the album, just because it is a little bit different, and the instruments are just so pretty. It's not hard to make good music when you've got beautiful instruments like these. But again, I love the whimsical quality of it. I love the lightness of it. Sometimes I play this when I'm taking my girls to school in the morning, just to kind of, start the day off right, and just keep it nice and light and airy and relaxing. But let's go in and kind of get into the meat of how this track was done. First of all, you hear it enter in with this great little instrument. It's actually a multi. I've got a little kind of weird artifact going on here. Something wrong with the titles. I don't know why it's doing that. It has never done that before. But this is in Lumina, which I had some of these instruments last time from this collection. And this one's called, it's in the fantasy section. It's called The Vision. And like I said, it's a multi. So it's got some preset sections and combinations. I just use it for real simple one note, kind of almost like a pad, but it enters in at the beginning, and just kind of stays in as an underscore through that first segment. Almost as a pedal tone or something like that. Anyway, it just kind of gives a little bit of atmosphere to the whole piece. And then after that comes in, again, the Lumina harp, which, like I talked about last time, is actually a Celtic harp. And I have the wrong track selected. There we go. This one was actually a combination, though, of that Celtic harp and piano and vibraphone. So it's a little bit different tone. A little bit more bell-like, so again, adding to that fantasy, whimsical quality to it. And then after that, the lead line comes in, and this is an instrument called a celesta. You can see here I've actually got it layered. I've got two different celestas. One is the Lumina, which is a beautiful instrument because of the selection. They have some great stage sounds, just ambient atmosphere, reverb, and everything from the hall. And then I combine that with the factory instrument that came with Kontakt. They have a celesta as well. Now, the celesta is a fascinating instrument. It looks a lot like a upright piano, kind of, but it plays bells instead of strings. And it's made famous by Tchaikovsky when he did the Nutcracker. He had just discovered the celesta, and that's the instrument you hear playing with the Sugar Plum Fairy. Let's see. I don't know if I can play it. Remember that part? Anyway, I probably butchered it just now, but that's the same instrument, and so very fitting that it be in a Christmas piece. And plus, I just love the way it sits on top of a mix and just has a great way to cut through. Hey, got some people posting in on Facebook. Probably need to turn off my Wi-Fi. Anyway, so that's the celesta. And then let's just listen to all those three parts coming in. Harp on top of the Vision, and then celesta coming in. And again, the reason why I decided to layer those two celesta parts is because one has a little bit more punch and the other one has just a little bit more sort of a sustain on it, and I wanted the best of both worlds. I'm greedy like that. But afterwards came in, when we go into the sort of the chorus, Gloria part, if you're familiar with the traditional hymn, this is done little bit more fuller sound, and then I added the Albion Sordino strings, Consordino strings. These are muted strings. Again, great for a kind of an underscore kind of sound, and but really smooth and full, rich sounding strings. Great to offset that lead viola part, and again, we're kind of alternating, just like I did with the first Noel. I like to alternate my instrumentations, especially between verse and chorus. Sometimes even between verses, I'll alternate a little bit. And I did the same thing here. I have the Lumina. I believe this is the Contact factory harp, a great instrument in its own right. Very pretty. That layered on top of the Sordino strings with a viola on the lead, and it keeps it very simple. And then we go right back into the verse, same instrumentation with the addition of flute and oboe. Again, can't go wrong with the Lumina legato instruments. They're just so beautiful in their smoothness, the richness, and the natural sound that they have. But then it changes back. I think we already went over the instrumentation on the first verse. Is the same on the second verse, except for those two additions. Second chorus is very similar. And then we have kind of the breakdown at the end, where we combine all three lead instruments with the celesta, and it kind of brings a nice close to the whole piece. All the instruments just blending beautifully there at the end. And most of my tracks that I do in Logic with MIDI and all the instruments like this, I usually do at tempo. This one has a consistent tempo throughout. But at the end, I noticed, I hope you noticed that there's sort of a slowdown, a retard at the end. And that was accomplished by basically just automating the tempo down. So it is steady throughout most of the song, and then just there at the end, I just kind of ratchet it down a little bit until it gets that natural, just closing feel. So that's a little trick to give it that, that almost that live performance feel. If I wanted to, and again, last year when I was really working and doing most of the work on this piece, I would probably maybe spend 4 or 5 hours on each song, and that was it. I just didn't have a whole lot of extra time. If I'd gone in and wanted to tweak even more, which I always can do more tweaking on a song. It seems like I'm never 100% satisfied. I'm usually maybe 95 at most, but I could always go and tweak more and more. But one thing I could do, maybe even add a little bit more of an organic feel, is to go through and add some variation to the tempo here and there. But I think it turned out great without that, and partly just because, playing by hand the instruments on the lead parts and just having such beautiful organic instruments to begin with. But that's how I did it, and hopefully you enjoyed it. I will be posting another video soon that's just going to go over a general overview of a lot of different instruments that I use. So if you're interested in computer music composing, I hope to be doing some teaching on it fairly soon. I don't know when I'll start that, but it's something I'm very passionate about. My wife calls me a sample library junkie. I'm always looking for new instruments. I love playing around with virtual instruments and composition, and so it's something that I like to share. And I like to show people because I think it's just so neat what you can do with virtual instruments these days. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Check out my album and have a great Christmas.